Alright everyone, I'm really excited about this video because it's the first one I'm doing in conjunction with a website called Scraps. Now, it's not a sponsorship, I'm working with them, as are quite a lot of other big artists to be fair, there's quite some pretty big names on there. And they're giving you the chance to buy project files and other music tutorial content. So basically you'll be able to work along using the project file along with an instructional video to learn how to make music better, really. So for this one, you can go to scrapsaudio.com and the project file is going to be available up there to buy and follow along in the tutorial, basically. Go check it out, scrapsaudio.com, and this is Fleet Riddim featuring DMVU, track breakdown.
All right, let's get into it. So what I'm going to do first is play the tune from the start to the point where I've played everything at least once in the tune. So probably up to this 65 mark. That seems to cover pretty much everything that we need to see in there. So have a listen.
All right, what's up, Bosh? Let's see if I can do this for you. It might have been kind of out of key. Let me give it one more go.
All right, that's enough of that. So you get the idea. I think I've played you everything we need to hear there, all the parts of the tune. So, like I say, I'm going to start from left to right with the parts as they appear in the tune. So first thing, probably the most interesting part of this tune and what the whole tune's based around is this whistling part that I got from DMVU. So basically I put up a thing on Instagram saying, I can't whistle, can someone whistle a melody line for me? Wrote the melody, sent him it. The melody wasn't the melody that it ended up as, which is why, as you'll see, I've had to do a lot of cutting and editing with it and stuff. But just have a listen. So we've got a couple of voice bits that were also on the original recording.
All right, what's up, Bosh? Let's see if I can do this for you.
Now with these, I'll take all the effects off and let's see how it sounded at the start. So this is it fully.
All right, what's up, Bosh? Let's see if I can do this for you.
And then let's take everything off and see how it sounds on its own.
All right, what's up, Bosh?
Oh, we've still got... What have we got on here? Is there another delay? Yeah, there's another delay. Oh my god, there's another delay and a saturator on there as well. Right, so I'm hoping my levels are right for this mic-wise as well. So we've got an EQ. Now I wanted this to sound like it was being recorded over the phone. So he's like, yeah, I can do this for you, and then does some whistling. So I've cut all the low end out straight away. And then a bit of top end as well, because the top end were just making it sound a bit too crisp and clean, and I wanted it to sound like a phone, basically. If you imagine a phone call, it's not loads of top end. It is all mid sort of stuff. And then I took a little bit out here just because I think that frequency were like pranging my ears a bit. So let's hear it without.
All right, what's up, Bosh? Let's see if I can do this for you.
And then let's hear it with the EQ.
All right, what's
Now what I'm going to do is just going to loop part of this, and we're going to see what effect this EQ has.
Alright, what's up, Bosh? Let's see if I can.
Or
Alright,
this
what's up,
this
Bosh?
bit in
Let's see if I
particular.
can. Alright, what's up, Bosh? Let's see if I can. Alright, what's up, Bosh? Let's see if I can. Alright, what's up, Bosh? Let's see if I can. Alright, what's up, Bosh? Let's see if I can. Alright, what's up, Bosh? Let's see.
So you can hear that's a little bit, it's kind of whistly. So that's probably why I've done that move. In particular, I need to put that back now. Oh my god. There we go. Back to normal. So that's why I've done that, to make it sound like a phone, basically. And this frequency was just annoying me, so I took it out. Next, saturator, just to add a little bit of drive, a little bit of crunch to it. So let's listen without.
Alright, what's up, Bosh? Let's see if I can. Alright, what's up, Bosh? Let's see if I can. Alright, what's up, Bosh? Let's see if I can.
It's not much, just adds a little bit of presence. Next,
Alright,
a
what's up,
de-esser.
Bosh? Let's see if I can. Alright, what's up, Bosh? Let's see if I can. Alright, what's up, Bosh? Let's see if I can. Alright, what's up, Bosh?
It's just, you can see there on the de-esser here, it's sort of pushing down certain frequencies it's designed to push down, which would give you the, or would normally come from the sort of whistling S sound that you get. I've not done much with that, I've just chucked it on basically. Echo, now the first echo I've done is a really tight echo. Again, listen with and without, or without and with.
Alright, what's up, Bosh? Let's see if I can. Alright, what's up, Bosh? Let's see if I can. Alright, what's up?
Like that's a really tight, that's 32 note delay, just on straight notes there. 30%, not too much, but enough that you can, it's prominent. And then this is what does most of the work, the slightly longer echo. You can see this is set to eighths. So this delay is then getting delayed by this delay. Let's have a listen.
Alright, what's up, Bosh? Let's see if I can. Alright, what's up, Bosh? Let's see if I can. Alright, what's up, Bosh? Let's see if I can. Alright, what's up, Bosh? Let's see if I can do this for you.
Yeah, a lot longer. And then we've got here saturation knob. This isn't much different from Ableton's saturator, to be fair, as far as I'm aware. I'm pretty sure it does a similar thing. If you don't have this, you can use Ableton's saturator. Like I say, as far as I'm aware, it does the same thing. But I just like using this every now and again, just because it's got a right big shiny knob on it. So let's listen to that with and without that.
Alright, what's up, Bosh? Let's see if I can do this for you.
And then with.
Alright, what's up, Bosh? Let's see if I can do this for you.
Again, it's not much, but it just gives it a little bit more presence. Not much to it at all. So before I get onto the whistle, let's move down to these effects here. Now, the first ones, again, the echo and delay, or the echo that's on this, is doing most of the legwork. So let's find a sample here. And what I've done is just dropped one-shot samples into Drum Rack. So let's have a listen to each sample. Why is that not working? Yeah, so just laser samples, dub samples, any lasers really. This is FX Laser Enter Ground, I don't know where it's from. But then these are literally, look, they're just splashed around the track, and I think I might have actually recorded these in live, so I've just played the tune and then just hit random samples at different times. If the effect changes as well, so the echo, you'll hear, if I let me play this from the start here. So, let me solo it, sorry. Right, let's listen to the first sample on here. So when it hits this, when it hits this point here, you'll. Yeah. So you can hear how this modulation. I keep trying to touch my screen. This modulation here is what's making the pitch of the delay go up and down. So it's like in background. But again, this is just for layering, just effects. It's quite low in the mix, minus 35 decibels there, so it's barely there. But it really fills it out. And it's a ping pong delay I've got on that as well. So let's have a look at the effects I've got on there. Saturator, again, just to bring out a little bit of the top end on everything. And the echo. So let's take those off and have a listen without. Dead. All right. Saturator. You see how the saturator beefs up that back end of that sample there. So let's listen again. So you know, like the reverb that's already in the sample. Ready? So that's what that saturator does there, and then the echo, obviously. So that's the effects channel. Up next, we've got the Foley. Now, the Foley channel, this one, Tuesday at 18:06. So at 6 p.m. on a Tuesday evening, I've gone outside with my mobile phone and I've just put it on the rock and let it record. And this is the result. I'm going to beef that right up. And that's all that is. It's literally just a recording of the outdoors. Now this goes super quiet under everything else. So if there's any point where there's no noise, there's never no noise. Some people prefer to have some noise going on. I have no noise at points. I like there to be at least something in the background there. This runs all the way through the tune, as you can see. Let's find an interesting bit. Yeah. And then, have we got any delays and things on there? What's on there? No delay or anything, actually. Surprising. Yeah, can't see any delay on there. So all it is, let's turn these all down again. Let's turn these off and off, off and off. So this is the original recording. As you can hear, it's a really full sound. It's got all the frequencies in there from high to low. And I didn't want it. So for these background sounds, I think it's really important to take all the bottom end out because you don't want to be pushing up bass. You can leave I'd say maybe leave some mids in for character, potentially. But I always thin it right out. So have a listen to the effect that this has. Yeah, see the difference? Then a compressor just to make the quiet stuff as loud as the loud stuff, or the loud stuff as quiet as the quiet stuff. You can hear a big difference there. And that's the makeup gain that's doing that. If I take that off, you're still getting the compression, but it's not pumping everything up as well as compressing, it's just compressing. Whereas if you put the makeup gain on, it makes up for the reduction in volume that the compression's caused. Like so. Limiter just for a bit of peak control, just to stop anything going over and clipping. And then an EQ. I assume this is just to remove an annoying frequency. Yeah. Yeah, I didn't want it to be so crisp. I wanted to remove a little bit of the further top end of that. Still left the top here. Look at now. This is quite interesting. This is the limits of the phone recorder. So I'm using a Google Pixel 4a, and it, by the looks of it, it records nothing over 12,000 hertz. Anything over 12,000, it's just chopped it off. Which is mad, really, if you think about it. So just watch out for that if you're doing phone recordings. And that's that. So let me put that back down to... Yeah, barely hear it. And that's the Foley channel. So let's go back up. What have we got next? The Flute. Alright, now I'm going to show you these two channels at the same time because they're grouped together. But it's the Flute audio, which I recorded on my keyboard. It's a Yamaha... What is it? Let me find out what it is. Alright, I don't actually know what Yamaha it is, but it's some Yamaha keyboard. And I just put a flute preset on there and played in the melody, which is as follows. Let me do it from here. See, you can even hear a little bit of clicking. That's just audio recorded, so all I've done is got the piano, played the flute part on the piano, but then I've got my microphone and just put it to the speaker and recorded it as I played it. I wanted to do that instead of recording it as MIDI because I just like the sound of audio recording sometimes better than MIDI. Sounds a bit more human, I think. You get like the background artifacts and things like that. So that's like I say, that's a mic feed from the keyboard instead of just a straight audio out. I'd recommend, especially for dub reggae and dubstep and things, I'd recommend getting some actual audio in there, because it just makes a huge difference in making the tune sound not so computerized, I think, personally. So that's the flute part. Next is the whistle from DMVU. Let's have a listen to that. You can see the tuner going off here. So first I'll go over the sound of this. All I've done is a filter, which that actually does something later. That's not for the sound. EQ'd it a little bit. Again, taking off that top end there. The real high sort of dusty stuff at the top. And then a tuner, which I used to tune it. So let's have a look here. Now notice here the pitch of this first part of the whistle. It's minus 10 semitones and it's minus 21 cents. So it's probably not perfectly tuned, but I didn't really want it to be perfectly tuned because it's supposed to be someone whistling, you know what I mean? So I wanted to get it as close as possible. So this is pitched down, and then the next bit is closer to the normal pitch. So that's at minus 10, and then this one, that's only at plus 2. And let's listen to it all together. But let's look at some of the tuning I've had to do here. Plus 2, minus 48 for some reason. So that could be plus 1, plus 2. Maths, I'm terrible at maths. But yeah, basically I've done some madness with this tuning. It's probably not that very accurate. But that kind of lends to the sound of the tune, I think. I want it to sound a bit rough, a bit spooky. And I think it does well for that. Now, what I've done here to blend these two together, I wanted to fade into the actual recorded flute, or the keyboard flute. So let me get the automation up here. Where is it? Auto filter frequency. Yep, so this is, look at the auto filter frequency here. Sorry, I keep moving away from mic. So on this track we've got an auto filter going bottom up or top down, and then the opposite. Notice how they're the opposite. Let me show you again. Now what this does is the top flute slowly fades in from the bottom up, and then the DMVU flute fades out from the bottom up as well. So let's see what that sounds like all together. You're going to hear this whistle turn into this flute. And now we're on pure flute. So that's what I wanted to do. It just made it a bit easier to fit everything in with the tuning wise, because this is a little bit rough. I didn't want to be having to put this in places up here and it sounding a bit weird. So his whistle actually only features in this start bit of the tune, and then the rest of it's taken over by the flute recording. I'm trying to think of anything else I can tell you about that really, but I don't think there is, to be honest. I want to be able to give you as much info as possible though. So next, let's look at this little bad boy. This is a whoosh. I've called this channel Whoosh. And it is basically a reversed, reverbed version of this piano skank. Oh, not that skank, this skank. So what I've done there, and I'm going to show you how to do this on a drum in a bit, but you can apply the same methodology to this. I'm not going to show you how to do it on this because I feel like it might interrupt the flow of things. It's going to take me a while to show you. But all I've done is recorded, the theory on it is I've recorded the skank audio, and you do this by creating a new audio channel. I'll just show you. So creating a new audio channel, your external in, you're going to set that to skank. So now, where is it? There it is. So now the audio from skank is going into audio 1 here. And then what you do is you record that in. So if I record arm audio 13, press record. All right, so now we've got a perfect audio recording of the channel above. Now what I do here is reverse that. So down here in Ableton 11, you need to click this little arrow here, flip it backwards. And then what you do, again, I'm going to show you this properly with a drum later on, like a kick drum or something, but because it's a bit trickier to do it with this sound because there's so much reverb and delay with it anyway. But then, so you'd put a reverb on this, and then you'd create a new audio track, do the same again, set the audio input, this one, external in, set that to the audio from the track above it, record that in, so now you've got the audio reversed but with normal reverb. And now if you think about it, if you reverse that, you've got reversed reverb, but now the audio is normal, like the normal way around. It's a really good way to do build-up effects. I think I use it all the time. I probably use it too much, to be fair. Let me just delete this. So let's have a listen to how this sounds in the tune. It's subtle, but it just leads into that piano skank. So let's have a listen on its own. And that's it. I've just done all that reverse reverb stuff, and then I've literally just left a bit of it off because I don't want the initial hit of the piano skank. I don't want that in the reversed sound. I just want the reverb itself. So I cut a little bit off the end there. That's quite an important thing to remember. So what else we got? What's next? Yeah, I'll show you it with this. I forgot about this. So I've done the same with this side stick here. Let me just... Yeah. So again, I've done that. Reverse reverb. Let's have a listen to it on its own. Blink and you'll miss that one. I've got to feel like I'm going to burp. Now we're all right. Yeah, we're all right. So I'll show you how to do this one properly. So we're going to get this snare. Oh, there it is. Let's get this snare. It's not actually a snare. It's just called snare. It's actually a rim shot. Now I'm going to take the delay off it. Where is it? There it is. Let's get rid of that. Okay, so I would right-click on this channel, insert audio track, external in where it says there. If you can't see this bit, you need to click on the I/O here. Don't want anyone getting lost and thinking, I don't have that in my Ableton. You do. You just need to click the I/O button at the side there. And then you're going to get this external in. You're going to switch it to the track you want to record. So we want to record the snare track, so we're going to click snare. We're going to click record arm. And then even while it's soloed, as long as we can hear this, we can record. So let's do that. Now, I'm going to get this. Let's have a listen to it on its own. I don't think it'll have the reverb on. Oh yeah, it did a bit. So let's get this. Let's reverse it. So again, double click on the sample, go down here, reverse. And you know what? That might be enough for this one. I'll show you what I'd normally do though. So, audio effects, reverb. All right, now I need to make that a little bit longer and a little bit tighter. All right, so what I'm going to do now, I've got my reversed sample with regular reverb on it. Do I say my R's funny? That's a reverb. Reverb. Anyway, so now I've got my reverse sample with normal reverb, and then I'm going to do the same thing again. Let me show you while we're talking while I'm doing that. So you click on the channel that you've just recorded this in, insert audio track, external in, set that to for audio, which is the one above it that you want. and then record it again. Yeah. Now, you can delete this channel if you want. So you're left with this audio here. Sounds like this. Oh. Yeah. So your reverb's normal, but your sample's still backwards. So now let's switch it round. Your sample's now forwards, but your reverb's backwards. Yeah. Now I'd tweak that reverb a bit because I don't know if you heard, but it kind of dropped off a little bit before the sample actually hit. It's not what we want, but you'd have to spend a bit of time. You'd have to spend a bit of time tweaking your reverb and stuff to get that right. But that's how you do that. And then all I do is get that audio file, line it up to where I want it. Usually get my hit in the right place there or somewhere abouts. Let's get closer. Let's do that a little bit after. Delete it so the hit isn't there anymore. With that, sounds like this. Yeah? Simples. Why am I doing that? Alright, so that's reverse reverb in a nutshell. You can use it on all sorts. I use it on, like I say, that piano skank at the start, and the reverb actually goes past the start of the bar. Really useful tip. Play around with the size of the reverb, the length, because size and length, two different things, don't forget. Mess around with it, have a play around, experiment. That is what dub is about. So let's delete this channel now. So I want to keep everything tidy. So what's next? Drums. Kicks, really simple. I think it's just one sample. Oh, hang on. Yeah. Bit of reverb in the background. That is coming from the send effect here. That's this reverb here. Where's my kick? But in relation to the kick, that's barely any reverb, so that's just to add space, really. I'll go through my send and return effects at the end. Right, now this is a technique that I'm not going to say I created it. I started doing it a while ago. I felt like I had not done it before, and it seems to work. If you want to mix up your snares and your drums and stuff in general, get a bit of variation. I would recommend using the same sample and just cutting the start of it off. So if we look at these two samples that I've got here, why is this not? There we go. They're both the same, FC Rimi 1, but this one's the full sample, and this one is half the sample. There's not much difference, but there's enough difference that it sort of varies the tune a bit and keeps it interesting. You can kind of hear it if you play them together like that. Let me get my... Where's my thing? Hang on a second. There we go. Yeah, so you can hear it when you play them together, and it's a very slight difference, but it just adds a bit of variation, a bit more of a human element to the tune. You could copy a third one, and maybe do it from there, or there, and just mix it up. I'm all about variation in tunes, but I'll go into that a little bit when I get into the structure of the song, but this is more just explaining the build-up of the song, how it's all put together. So more reverses, leading up to the rims, which is always a good thing for variation as well. So they only happen every, once every 4 bars? Yeah, once every 4 bars. Have a listen to how this sounds. See what that does? Let's listen to the next one. Yeah? And I've done the same thing there, reverse reverb on that, exactly the same. I told you I use it everywhere. I really do use it everywhere. Now, the rhythm section. Hats. Let's have a look at what we've got going on with the hats. Now, if you ask me, that's a pretty straight pattern. That is one hat on every beat of every bar, simple. Now, look here. Now, let me play it. Yeah, again, quite quiet. I've clicked on the wrong thing. That's the one. Now, you'll notice what I've done here is minimized the... I've lowered the velocity on the first and the third hats, which I think some people might find a bit strange, but I find for steppers and dub, it works really well. I know this isn't a steppers tune, but I find doing it that way instead of the other way around leads into that second note rather than the first note sort of dropping down to the second. So instead of it being you get it might not sound like it make a difference, but I think it works quite nicely. And with that delay on there as well. Where is it? The delays, that delay is on the send as well, on the return. I'll go into the delay and returns later. Send and returns. Oh my God. So we've got the hats, simple rhythm, bit of delay. Let me turn this up. Now, what I would always recommend, especially with shakers and percussion in particular, take them from an existing loop. I would 100% recommend taking anything like shakers or bongos from an already existing loop. It means that all the samples will fit together in a sonic sense, like the audio, they're already in the same... They're all from the same audio file, so they should all work together. Now, what I like to do is either just load them into drum rack and simpler as one-shots, or there's the slice option. Now, let me show you. Hopefully you know about slice. If you don't know about slice, I'm going to very quickly show you. So I need to create a new new MIDI track, Control Shift and T on Windows. Don't know what it is on Mac, I'm sure you do. And we're going to get the simpler. Put it on there. Now I want to find samples. Let's go loop, bong, bong. Right, let's use that. So what I'm going to do is drag this into simpler. Now, normally that's just going to play. Is it record armed? It should be. It's not plugged in. So that's how it sounds on its own. But if we click on slice mode here, you see how it's picked up the transients in the tune? So let me switch back to classics. I was playing that way too low. So you see how classic mode, I'm playing the same sample at different pitches. Slice mode, I'm getting different samples and they all fit together already because they're all part of the same tune, the same loop. Now what I do here is I put a little fade out, not much. Let's do about that. A little bit more. And that's all I do really, that's how you do it. So drag a loop in, set it to slice, and then the sensitivity depends on how many transients you get out of it. You go from 0, where it'll just play the start, to all the way through where it plays everything. And that's my recommendation for making percussion and hi-hats and shakers and things like that. Take a loop that already exists, cut it up, and use them for your own benefit. Now let's have a look at the pattern here with the shakers. Now one tip I can offer here is, let me get to, I need to be in the right bit, where am I? Here it is. So, if we look at this, the groove's straight, but it sounds shuffled. Yeah, that doesn't make sense. Now, what it is, it's because I haven't applied the swing that I've added. So I've added here, which one is it now? Logic 8ths 62, which is here. So if you click this little, it's now an X, but if you click that arrow, 2 arrows there, you get the swing menu, groove menu, and you can get all kind of different grooves, drop them onto your track. Now, I don't like to commit the groove, because if I make any edits in here and it messes up the whole groove, I have to start again. So I leave it in there, and then any changes I make to this loop, all the MIDI notes, it will still automatically play it with the shuffle on. So big tip from me, don't apply your groove. Don't commit your groove. Just leave it on there, because it still does the groove. But you can take hats out and things without messing up the groove. Once it's committed, you can't go back. So I'd leave that uncommitted there. What else have we got? Bongos. I've just been over the technique I used for the bongos. Slightly different way of doing it here, but the same effect. And funnily enough, I think that's the loop I picked there is actually the bongo loop that I used in here, which is I didn't expect, but it is. So let me just switch to here. Yep, it's the same loop, and all I've done again is cut it up. I've cut it up in a different way. I can't remember. Oh my god, I need to show you how to do this, don't I? There's a way to assign loops. Let me just do bong. Where is it? Hold up. Oh, I'm not in samples, that's why. Here we go. Now, so I've got my audio loop of my bongos. I'm going to right click. Now, where is it? Slice to new MIDI track. This is the secret weapon. This is the second secret weapon. You click slice to new MIDI track, and what that's going to do is the same process as it does in Simpler, where it picks out the transients, but it's going to make them into their own individual audio samples on a drum rack. So watch this. I right click my audio, slice to new MIDI track, create one. Let's do transient. So this is how it creates its slices. Now you can set it up so it just does 16th notes. That's fine, but I'm going to use the transient, so we're only picking up the spikes in the audio. If you don't know what a transient is, it's basically... Why do I keep trying to show you by pointing my finger on my screen? Let's take one thing at a time. Transient, slicing preset built in. I don't know what any of these do. Preserve warped timing. That means that if you've moved or warped the audio, it'll keep that warp in there, and then click OK. And there we go. A load of slices. Now let's see if they are any good. Oh. So they're a little bit shorter than I'd like, but you can adjust them all. Literally just click on each one and you can adjust them. So I can do that. We can do... Yep, that needs to be a little bit longer. So you can go through and adjust them all as you wish. I'm going to delete that now, but that is how you cut your loop straight to a drum rack. All right. Ooh, we've got about 20 minutes. I don't really want this to be more than an hour. We've got about 20 minutes left, so let's have a look. I think the only thing we need to cover now, the skank, we haven't really covered. So this is just the guitar mute preset in Ableton. I use loads of presets from Ableton, to be fair. They're not bad if you know what to do with them. So let's hear how it sounds on its own. Chords, let's see what chords we've got. That's definitely inversion, so what's that? G. And then let's move this down. That's not right. Does this one go up? Do these two both go up? And C. G and C by the looks of it. So that's the two chords. It's just G and C all the way through. Oh, apart from this bit here, but I'll find out what that is in a second. Listen, I'm no professional. I just make music. Right, let's have a listen to this. That's how it sounds on its own. I'm going to leave it playing. I'm going to EQ it. Yeah, taking out the bottom end, spiced up the top a little bit. This is where the reverb does all the work. This is Valhalla Super Echo. Super massive, sorry. And let's listen. Yeah, so that's doing all the work there, really. Otherwise, it's literally just the guitar pluck, guitar mute setting, EQ, big old reverb. Right, so the drop. Let's hear the drop. A tip I can't recommend enough is taking everything out a little bit before the drop, so your drop doesn't have to be fucking crazy. If you're doing a big build-up, like with loads of snare rolls and all sorts of risers and everything, if your tune isn't bigger than the build-up that you've made, what are you doing? There's only a few tunes I think you can get away with like a really minimal drop. And I feel like house music can do it, to be fair, if it's got some like blonky sort of boom, doop, 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 like a minimal sort of thing. But yeah, I reckon you always need to be bigger than your build-up. So everything's trimmed down here. These go away now. Yeah. So you can see how it's only drums and bass really, but everything drops out here, so you've got that space to build it back up again. Now, where are we? Bassline. Let's go for the bassline first. Let's expand. Now, this. Auto filter's just there for some automation later on. Let's get rid of all this and see how the sound sounds on its own. Yeah? What have I done? Oh. I get it. Right, let's try that again. So, let's leave the EQ off. Let's do that, and that. So it's just a sine wave. I've cut off some of the top frequencies for not much reason at all, because there aren't any on a bass sine wave anyway. Yeah, it's just a sine. Nothing fancy about this at all. Saturation. And this is saturation knob again. Yeah, you can see that's popping off there, real buzzing. Let's turn it up and see what it sounds like. Turn it down. So sine wave. Oh. I don't even know if I've reset that to the right place. So that's doing most of the work on that. Now this here, it's going to be a bit confusing because we don't really need this on this channel. I copied this channel to make the second bass line, which is coming up here. Let's solo that. So you can hear this auto filter. Now, if you want to do kind of automation like this, you just need to click on your button, right-click on whatever you want to automate, and click Show Automation. And that'll show it here. And then you just Control and B, get your little pencil out, and then you can just draw stuff in as you want. So you can see this filter's now opening up. And then here I allow all the bass to come in. Now the sound's not much different itself, but the bass line is. So I wanted to put them on 2 different tracks just for organisation's sake, really. So we've done the bass line. The only thing we need to do now is the clav, and I think we've covered everything. Yeah, I think that's it. Right, so clav, let's have a listen. In context. Oh, hang on. Let's listen to this one instead. Now let's have a look how we made that sound. Let's have a listen to it on its own first. Da, 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 da. Right, now let's have a listen to how we've assembled that sound. Let's take off everything first. Now, this is made up of 2 versions of the same sound. Now, this good old vintage Fat 1 lead, it's an Ableton preset. So you can grab it. Go get one now and stick it on something. On its own, it sounds like this. So there's 2 copies. Yeah. So that's version 1. And then number 2 is high. So it's a low one and a high one together. Sounds like that. And then we've got phaser and flanger on here. That just gives it some movement. Now, what I've done here, which I hadn't addressed in any of the other sort of tracks before, this is a really good way to have your reverb or delay or any effect completely separate from your clean signal. So you've got your dry signal, and then you can add the reverb on top of the dry signal. It's way easier to control stuff. It stops your parts of the tune disappearing into the reverb, unless you want them to. And this is how you do it. So you're going to get an audio effect rack from your audio effects. There we go, audio effect rack, drag it in. It's going to look like that, but empty. Now, you're going to create 2 channels. So you right-click in here, create chain. Every chain you make is a channel of the audio that's there, or whatever instrument you've got. It's another copy channel of that. So then what you can do, here I've put a phaser and a flanger on there, but everything you do it when you do it this way, you want to put it 100% wet, because you've still got the clean signal on a separate channel. So let's have a listen to each channel on its own. This is the phaser, flanger, reverb fully wet. And then this is the sample on its own. So they're both playing at the same time. And then I've just EQ'd a little bit of low end and added a little peak up here. If you were hoping for precise tips on EQing, I'm not your guy, sorry. I just noodle it around until it sounds good. I've got a little bit of an idea of where things sit. I know that like if you want to be really tweaking people's ears, you've got to go 1K up to 5K is a really like active area. Subs, all below 80, like 80 hertz. Your 80 to 120s, your mid, bass. That's about all I know, really. But you don't have to be an expert, you just do it by ear. Now, I think that's everything. Is that everything? We've got reverses all the way through. I've shown you those. I've shown you sticks. I've shown you... I haven't shown you the send and return effects. So, send and return effects. In your loop view, whatever they call it, they're next to your master channel. So they're here. And you can, if you can't see them... hang on. If you can't see them, you need to press the S and the R here. So the S shows you the knobs here. Look how they disappear. And then the R gives you the return channels on the right-hand side there. Yeah. And what that means is, this A knob corresponds to this effect. So on here, you've got your effect here. Again, this is another place where you want to have your effects at the end effect at least wants to be at 100% reverb. So you're not getting any of the original sound through, because this kind of achieves the same thing that audio effect rack technique does, but this is built into Ableton. And then all you need to do, if you want to put a big fat reverb on something, let's find the snare, because that's the easiest thing to sort of hear it on. All I need to do is whack. Yeah. So this is how dubbing works, because if the reverb was on that track and I turned it down, the reverb would disappear. But when you do it this way, I can turn the reverb off and the tail still stays. See? So that's how you'd use send and returns. Drag your effect into this bit, and then pick whichever track you want to put it on, and just turn the knob up. And that's send and return effects, really. And I think that's it. I hope I've got everything. It's quite important that I get everything, really, because it's a track breakdown. What's the point in breaking down a track if you don't break down the whole track? Let's have a look a little bit. Last 10 minutes, make this video a clean hour. Let's have a little look at the structure. So what I'm going to have to do first is just minimize everything. Let's get it all. Oh, it's just, you know what? I'm going to highlight everything. I'm going to do. Oh, what am I doing? I'm going to do that. And then I'm just going to open up these. Sorry about this, guys. I'm not the cleanest video maker, video editor, whatever, but it is what it is, isn't it? So, song structure. We've got intro up to 33 bars. Now, the reason this goes past 33 here is because of the bit of his voice at the start. That takes up a bar, I think. So that's the reason that we're a little offset here. But I've done the intro building up to 33 bars, roughly. And then let's have a listen to the whole thing. So we're literally just bass and drum. Now what I try and do, you'll notice there, every 4 or 8 bars I try and put some kind of variation in. So there we had a delayed rim. That one. It just keeps the interest. That's the most important thing, keeping it interesting. So here again at the 8th bar, difference, drop. So I've brought both those in there, and then somewhere around, taken the clav out, put the whistle back in, kept the skank in. So just every 16 bars, something drops out, something comes in, something changes. And then towards the end of each of those sections, I'd do a little drum roll, a little drop out, a little bit where there's less stuff, anything like that. So that all carries on, and then we get to like breakdown. Now this is where it changes, so the bass line is doing the same melody as the clav. I hope you can hear me properly over this. I'm going to get a bit too close to the mic now. But you'll hear the bass line start to fade in, and it's now doing the same melody as the clav, which it wasn't before. And again, we're back to just bass and drum. Obviously bits of effects in there, but bass and drum, new bass line. That carries on. Remember, there's going to be a difference here. And then again, same again, clav and skank come in, clav drops out, flute comes in here. Same again, really. So pretty simple format, I'd say. It's just 16 bar sections, really. Take something out, put something in every 16 bars. Right, I think that's it. So don't forget, I mentioned at the start of the video, if you want the project file to go along with this, you need to go to www.scrapsaudio.com, sign up, make an account, and you can find the project file is for sale. It's not free, I'm afraid. The project file's for sale on there, and you get it to go along with this video, and then you can have a proper look, have a dig around in my file and see how I've done all this stuff really outside of the video and actually load it up in your own Ableton. So I want to thank scrapsaudio.com for that. Just Scraps is the name of the company. But really cool company. Really good for people trying to learn music, because they're basically selling project files and other bonus stuff, sample packs, things like that, along with videos that artists are already making. So go check it out, scrapsaudio.com. Check me out. Go subscribe to this. Subscriptions really help. I'm trying to get up to 1,000 subs. That's the dream. Yeah, go subscribe, like it, comment. I reply to every comment. If you've got any questions, ask me questions. I love answering people's questions. And I'm going to leave it there. Thanks for watching. I've been Bosch. This was the Fleet Riddim featuring DMVU track Breakdown. Ciao.